The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 347 different species filled the curved rows of seats that spiraled down toward the central speaking platform. The air recycling systems worked overtime to accommodate the breathing needs of so many different life forms. Ambassador Minjun Park sat in the human section, a small area near the back of the chamber. Humans were still new members of the galactic community. They had only joined the Council 18 months ago. Most species barely noticed them. High Counselor Vextar stepped onto the central platform. His reptilian scales caught the light as he moved. The Zephyrian leader was ancient by most standards, having ruled the Council for over 2 centuries. His cold yellow eyes swept across the assembled representatives. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Vextar began, his voice amplified through the chamber's translation system. We gather today to address a growing threat to our peaceful civilization. The chamber fell silent. Even the usual whispers and shifting stopped. When the High Counselor spoke of threats, everyone listened. Our long-range scouts have detected movement in the Outer Rim territories. Vextar continued. Unknown vessels with advanced technology. They probe our borders. They test our defenses. We must prepare for the worst. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembled delegates. The insectoid Thalanis clicked her mandibles nervously. The gas-breathing Mortarians released worried puffs from their breathing apparatus. Therefore, Vextar announced, the Council has decided that all member species must contribute to our collective defense. This is not a request. This is a requirement. General Korvash, the Council's military enforcer, stepped forward. His massive frame and battle-scarred armor commanded respect through fear. The bear-like alien species had never lost a war. Each member species will provide 30% of their military vessels, Korvash declared. Additionally, 50% of all rare materials and energy sources must be transferred to Council control within 60 standard days. The chamber erupted in concerned chatter. 30% of their military forces was enormous. 50% of rare materials would cripple most species' economies. One by one, species representatives stood to pledge their compliance. The crystalline Veltari promised their entire crystal fleet. The aquatic Hydronians offered their underwater cities resources. Even the proud warrior Cytherians agreed without question. Ambassador Park watched this display with growing unease. Something felt wrong about the whole situation. He had studied galactic history since humanity's first contact. Never before had the Council demanded such massive tributes from member species. The Floranian Collective pledges its full cooperation, announced the plant-like delegate, its leaves rustling with submission. The mechanical synthesis offers 90% compliance, declared the robotic representative, exceeding even the Council's demands. Species after species rose to offer their resources. Fear drove their quick acceptance. Everyone knew what happened to species that refused Council orders. Their worlds were quarantined. Their trade was cut off. There being quote. Some simply disappeared from galactic records. The pattern continued for hours. Vextar would call a species name, and they would immediately pledge everything the Council demanded. Sometimes they offered even more. Hoping to gain favor, Minjun Park took notes on his tablet. He recorded the specific demands and the responses. Something about this whole process seemed rehearsed, like it had happened many times before. The tentacled Dominion offers complete submission to the Council's wisdom, announced another delegate. Park noticed how quickly each species agreed. There was no discussion, no requests for clarification, no attempts at negotiation, just immediate, total compliance. When the Gossamer Wing Republic was called, their ethereal delegate practically sang their acceptance. We offer all that we have, and more, Great Council. The pattern was identical every time. Fear, immediate submission, and often offering more than requested. Park began to suspect This was not the first time such demands had been made. Hours passed as every species was called. The alphabet was long when it included 347 different civilizations. Park calculated the massive wealth and military power being transferred to the Council's direct control. Finally, Vex's Tar's voice echoed through the chamber one last time for the day. Earth's human delegation. The chamber fell quiet. Many species had forgotten humans were even present. Park stood slowly, feeling hundreds of alien eyes upon him. The weight of their attention was overwhelming. Ambassador Park, Vextar said, consulting his notes. Does humanity pledge the required 30% of military assets and 50% of rare materials? Park looked around the chamber. Every single species had agreed immediately. Some had offered their entire civilizations. The pressure to conform was enormous. Honored High Counselor, Park began carefully, I must request time to consult with my government on Earth. Shocked gasps echoed through the chamber. No one had asked for time. No one had requested consultation. Every other species had agreed immediately. Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed. Consultation? Every other species has recognized the urgency of our situation. I understand the urgency, Park replied. However, human governmental procedures require consultation on matters of this magnitude. We need time to properly respond. Whispers spread through the assembled delegates. The very concept of not immediately agreeing seemed to confuse them. Some species looked terrified that someone might refuse. Counselor Thalanis clicked her mandibles rapidly. The hive mind requires no consultation. We simply comply. Humans operate differently, Park explained. We have multiple leaders who must agree on such important decisions. General Korvash stepped forward menacingly. The Council's patience has limits. Human. Understood, General, Park replied calmly. How much time would be considered reasonable? Oh. Vexitar conferred with other council members in hushed tones. They seemed annoyed by this unexpected delay. Finally, he turned back to Park. 72 standard hours, Vextar announced. Earth has 3 days to provide its answer. The Council expects full compliance, just as every other species has demonstrated. Thank you for your patience, Park said with a bow. Earth will provide its response within that time frame. As Park sat down, worried murmurs filled the chamber. Other ambassadors stared at him with mixtures of confusion and terror. No one understood why humans would risk the Council's anger by delaying. The session ended shortly after. As delegates filed out, many approached Park with concerned warnings. You must comply quickly, urged the Floranian delegate. The Council's anger is terrible. Simply agree to everything, suggested the mechanical synthesis representative. Resistance brings destruction. But Park had seen something others had missed. In all those hours of automatic submission, he had noticed the fear in every delegate's eyes. This was not cooperation. This was extortion on a galactic scale. As he prepared to return to Earth, Park wondered what his planet's leaders would decide. 72 hours to determine humanity's fate in the galaxy. President Sarah Chen sat at the head of the oval table in the United Nations Emergency Session Room. Around her, the most important leaders on Earth gathered for what might be the most crucial decision in human history. Ambassador Min Jun Park had returned from the Galactic Council with disturbing news. 30% of Earth's military forces and 50% of their rare materials would leave humanity defenseless and economically crippled. Let me understand this correctly, said Admiral James Torres, head of the Earth Defense Force. Every one, Park confirmed. 346 species pledged compliance without question. Some offered even more than requested. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief strategic advisor, pulled up holographic displays showing the Council's demands. This would require us to surrender most of our space fleet and nearly all our rare Earth elements. What happens if we refuse? Asked President Chen. Park shifted uncomfortably. Based on historical records, species that refuse council demands face complete isolation, trade restrictions, communication blackouts, sometimes worse. Sometimes they disappear from galactic records entirely, added Dr. Vasquez. 17 species in the past century have simply vanished after refusing council orders. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The implications were clear. Refuse, and Earth might face destruction. Comply, and humanity would become a slave species. Admiral Torres stood and activated a secure holographic display. Before we make any decisions, you need to see what we've learned about our galactic neighbors. The display showed detailed scans of alien military vessels. Ships from dozens of different species appeared in rotating three-dimensional models. For the past 18 months, we've been secretly analyzing every piece of alien technology we've encountered, Torres explained. Our scientists have identified critical weaknesses in their designs. President Chen leaned forward. What kind of weaknesses? What? Their technology is old, Dr. Vasquez said. Very old. Most of their ship designs haven't changed in centuries. They rely on size and intimidation rather than innovation. Torres highlighted specific areas on the alien ship models. Look at these power distribution systems. They're inefficient and vulnerable. Their weapons are powerful, but slow to recharge. Their shields have predictable frequency patterns. You're saying we could fight them? President Chen asked. Not just fight them, Torres replied. We could win. Park looked shocked. Admiral, the Council has millions of ships. Earth has maybe a few hundred. Numbers aren't everything, Torres said. Our ships are more advanced than anything in their fleet. Human engineering focused on efficiency and adaptability. Their technology focused on intimidation and control. Dr. Vasquez activated another display showing Earth's defensive preparations. We've been building orbital platforms around all major population centers. Underground facilities house our latest weapons systems. We've prepared for this possibility. You expected this? Park asked. We suspected it, President Chen replied. Something felt wrong about the galactic community from our first contact. Too much fear. Too little genuine cooperation. Torres continued the briefing. Our deep space monitoring stations detected the same outer rim threats the Council mentioned. But our analysis suggests something different. Different how? Park asked. The unknown vessels they're worried about? Torres smiled. They're exploration ships. Scientific vessels. Not military threats. The revelation hit the room like a thunderbolt. Dr. Vasquez pulled up more data. The Council is using fake threats to justify tribute collection. They've been doing this for centuries. It's a protection racket, President Chen said grimly. Pay us to protect you from threats we invented. Park stared at the evidence. The other species don't know? They're too scared to investigate, Torres explained. The Council maintains power through fear. No one questions them because questioning leads to punishment. President Chen stood and walked to the window overlooking the city. Millions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their planet's future hung in the balance. What are our realistic options? She asked. Admiral Torres activated a tactical display. Option 1. We comply with their demands and become another subjugated species. Option 2, President Chen prompted. We refuse and prepare for war. War against the entire galactic community? Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. Not necessarily, Madam President. Our intelligence suggests many species would support resistance if they believed it was possible. They've never seen anyone successfully resist, Park added. But if Earth showed it could be done, other species might follow our example, Torres concluded. We could spark a galactic revolution. President Chen turned back to the group. What would you recommend, Admiral? I recommend we send a clear message, Torres said. Not threats or negotiations. Something simple that every species in the galaxy will understand. What kind of message? Park asked. Torres smiled. One word. The president raised an eyebrow. One word? No, Torres said simply. Just no. Clear, direct, and impossible to misunderstand. Dr. Vasquez nodded approvingly. It would shock them. No species has ever simply refused. It would also terrify them, Park warned. They'll send their military. Let them come, Torres replied confidently. Earth is ready. President Chen considered the options. Compliance meant slow death as a slave species. Resistance meant possible destruction, but also possible freedom for countless civilizations. If we do this, she said slowly, there's no going back. We'll be committed to fighting for our independence. Madam President, Admiral Torres said, humans have always fought for freedom. It's who we are. The vote was unanimous. Earth would refuse the Council's demands. 2 days later, Ambassador Park stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber. Representatives from all member species watched nervously. Word had spread that humanity might refuse, causing panic among the delegates. High Counselor Vex Tar called the session to order. Ambassador Park, has Earth reached its decision regarding the required tribute? Park stood slowly. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the air recycling systems seemed to quiet in anticipation. Yes, High Counselor, Park said clearly. Earth has prepared its response. Excellent, Vextar replied, assuming compliance. Please state your planet's contribution to galactic defense. Park looked around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces. Fear, curiosity, and desperate hope reflected in their eyes. With a clear, strong voice that carried to every corner of the massive room, he delivered Earth's message. No. The single word echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap. For several seconds, absolute silence reigned. Then confused murmurs began spreading through the assembled delegates. Vextar blinked his yellow eyes repeatedly. I'm sorry, Ambassador. The translation system may have malfunctioned. Could you repeat Earth's response? Park looked directly at the High Counselor. No. Earth will not provide tribute. We refuse your demands. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps and terrified whispers. No one had ever simply said no to the Galactic Council. The very concept seemed to break their understanding of how the universe worked. General Korvash stepped forward aggressively. You dare refuse the Council's legitimate authority? Yes, Park replied calmly. We dare. And with that simple exchange, the galaxy changed forever. Captain Donghyun Park watched the massive alien fleet approach Earth through his ship's main display. 200 Council warships had dropped out of hyperspace, just beyond the solar system's outer edge. The sight would have terrified any other species into immediate surrender. Sir, incoming transmission from the alien fleet, reported Communications Officer Kim Soo-jin from her station. Put it on screen, Captain Park ordered. The bridge display activated to show Fleet Commander Zelnoth, a towering insectoid alien with multiple compound eyes and razor-sharp mandibles. His species, the Vorthak, had conquered dozens of civilizations. Primitive humans, Zelnoth clicked in his translated voice. You have made a foolish mistake. Your planet defied the Galactic Council. Now, you will pay the price. Captain Park stood calmly before the display. As the brother of Ambassador Min-jun Park, he had expected this moment. Earth's leadership had prepared for this confrontation. Fleet Commander, Park replied respectfully, Earth stands by its decision. We will not pay tribute to the Council. Zelnoth's mandibles clicked in what sounded like laughter. You have 30 small vessels. I have 200 battleships. Each of my ships could destroy your entire fleet. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. We decline your generous offer, Park said with surprising calmness. The alien fleet commander's compound eyes focused intensely on the human captain. Then, you have chosen extinction. Prepare to... His words stopped mid-sentence as data began flooding across his command screens. Detailed technical specifications of every ship in his fleet appeared on his displays. Power signatures, weapon capabilities, shield frequencies, structural weaknesses, everything. "What is this?" Zelnoth demanded. "Those are complete scans of your entire fleet," Park explained pleasantly. "We've been studying your technology since you entered our space. Quite impressive ships, though they have some design flaws we couldn't help but notice." On Earth's Orbital Defense Station Alpha, Dr. Elena Vasquez coordinated the planet's response. Her team had spent months analyzing alien technology, preparing for exactly this scenario. "All stations report ready," announced her tactical coordinator. "Enemy fleet disposition confirmed. Weaknesses identified. Begin Phase 1, Dr. Vasquez ordered. Throughout the solar system, previously hidden defense platforms activated. What the aliens had assumed were small communication satellites suddenly revealed themselves as sophisticated weapon systems. Captain Park's small fleet of 30 Earth Defense Force ships took defensive positions around the planet. To the alien commander, it looked like a pitiful last stand. He had no idea what humans had actually prepared. "Your scans mean nothing," Zelnoth declared. "Numbers decide battles, not information." "We respectfully disagree," Captain Park replied. The first alien ship to attack was the Vorthak destroyer Conquest. It targeted Park's flagship with a massive energy beam designed to vaporize the smaller human vessel. The beam struck Earth's ship dead center. For a moment, Zelnoth thought the humans were finished. Then the beam dispersed harmlessly across the human ship's shields. "Impossible," Zelnoth clicked. "Your weapons operate on frequency 2.7 terahertz," Park explained casually. "Our shields are calibrated to deflect that specific frequency. We studied your technology, remember?" The human ship fired a single, precise shot at the alien destroyer. Instead of trying to destroy the massive vessel, the human weapon targeted a specific junction box in the alien ship's power grid. The destroyer's lights went out as it lost main power. "This is impossible," Zelnoth repeated. "How did you know exactly where to hit us?" More human ships engaged the alien fleet. Each shot was perfectly placed to disable rather than destroy. Engine components were knocked offline. Weapon systems were surgically removed. Life support remained intact, but the alien ships became helpless. "We're not trying to kill you," Captain Park explained as his ships continued their precise assault. "We're just removing your ability to threaten Earth." Dr. Vasquez watched the battle from her command center. "Phase 2 is working perfectly. Enemy vessels being disabled according to plan." The aliens had expected a desperate struggle against outmatched humans. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that knew their technology better than they did. Every weakness had been identified and exploited. Captain Lee Hyun-woo commanded the Earth ship Defiance. His target was a massive Council dreadnought that could normally destroy an entire planet. Instead of engaging its heavy armor, his ship fired micro-missiles that targeted the dreadnought's sensor arrays. Blind and confused, the alien dreadnought fired wildly in all directions. Its shots missed the nimble human ships but accidentally struck two of its own support vessels. "Fleet Commander," one of Zelnoth's subordinates reported frantically, "we're losing ships faster than we can track. The humans seem to know our every weakness." "Noth. 1. How is this possible?" Zelnoth demanded. "They're a primitive species that just joined the galactic community." Captain Park's voice came through the communication system again. "Commander Zelnoth, perhaps we should discuss terms for your fleet's safe withdrawal." "Withdrawal?" Zelnoth was outraged. "The Council does not retreat from primitive species. With respect, sir, You have 67 ships still capable of combat out of your original 200. We have disabled the rest without destroying them. Your crews are alive and unharmed. This was true. Across the battle zone, alien vessels drifted helplessly but intact. Human precision had knocked out their weapons and engines while leaving life support functional. We could have destroyed your entire fleet, Park continued. We chose not to. Please consider whether continued fighting serves your crew's best interests. Zelnoth looked around his own bridge. Warning lights flashed as human weapons had damaged non-critical systems. His own flagship was operating at 40% capacity. This is not possible, he muttered. Species do not resist the Council. Species do not win against the Council. Maybe it's time for some species to start, Captain Park suggested. On Earth's surface, millions of humans watched the battle through orbital cameras. They saw their small fleet systematically dismantling a force that should have overwhelmed them completely. Dr. Vasquez activated the final phase of Earth's response. Hidden weapon platforms throughout the solar system came online. Asteroid mining stations revealed themselves as disguised military bases. Gas giant refueling stations deployed defensive grids. Fleet Commander, Park said, you now see Earth's actual defensive capabilities. We have been preparing for this encounter since we joined the galactic community. Zelnoth's sensors detected the massive defensive network now surrounding his fleet. Dozens of hidden bases and defensive grids that could destroy his remaining ships in minutes. You planned this, Zelnoth realized. You expected us to come. We studied galactic history, Park explained. Species that refuse Council demands face military action. We prepared accordingly. But no species has ever successfully resisted, Zelnoth protested. Perhaps because no species was ever properly prepared, Park replied. We had time to study your tactics and technology. We learned from every military engagement in Council history. The alien fleet commander faced an impossible situation. His fleet was crippled, surrounded, and completely outmatched by an enemy that had studied his every weakness. What do you want? Zelnoth asked finally. For your fleet to leave our space and return safely to your homes, Park said. We have no desire to destroy you or conquer your worlds. We simply want to be left alone. The Council will never accept this. They will send more fleets. Then we'll be ready for them too, Captain Park replied confidently. But perhaps other species will start asking why the Council needs such large tribute payments when a small human fleet can defeat their military forces. For the first time in centuries, a Council fleet was retreating. As the alien ships limped away from Earth, word of humanity's impossible victory began spreading across the galaxy. The age of unquestioned Council authority was ending. 3 months after Earth's victory, Director Kim Soo-jin sat in her underground facility, reviewing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. What she saw amazed even her experienced analytical mind. The news of humanity's defeat of the Council fleet had spread to every corner of galactic civilization. For the first time in centuries, species were beginning to question the Council's authority. Director, her assistant reported, we're receiving communication requests from 47 different species. They all want to know the same thing. How we did it? Kim asked. How they can do it too. Kim smiled as she activated the secure communication system. The first call came from the tentacled Dominion, whose ethereal delegate had so eagerly submitted to the Council's demands just months earlier. Director Kim, the tentacled alien appeared on the holographic display. My people have heard impossible stories about Earth's victory. Is it true that 30 human ships defeated 200 Council vessels? It's true, Kim confirmed. But victory came from preparation, not superior numbers. How did you prepare? We thought resistance was impossible. Kim had been having similar conversations for weeks. Species that had submitted to the Council for generations were suddenly realizing that resistance might be possible. We studied, Kim explained simply. We analyzed Council technology, tactics, and history. We learned their weaknesses and prepared accordingly. Back on Earth, Ambassador Min Jun Park reviewed classified reports about humanity's 3-year preparation project. The scope had been enormous, but everything had been planned from the moment humans first encountered the galactic community. President Sarah Chen had made the decision early. If galactic civilization was based on fear and submission, humanity would need to be ready for conflict. The tribute demands had simply provided the excuse to reveal their preparations. The asteroid mining operations were actually weapons factories. Park read from Admiral Torres's report. Every research station in the outer system was a disguised military base. We even placed hidden sensors in gifts we gave to alien species during diplomatic exchanges. The level of preparation was staggering. While appearing to integrate peacefully into galactic society, humans had been building the most advanced defensive network in the galaxy. Dr. Elena Vasquez entered Park's office carrying more intelligence reports. "We're receiving defection requests from Council military units," she announced. 17 different species want to join our defensive alliance. "Defection requests?" Park asked. The Council's military was held together by fear and inevitability, Vasquez explained. When Earth proved that resistance was possible, that foundation cracked. Military units are abandoning the Council and seeking protection with us. The first major defection came from the crystalline Veltari. Their ships had beauty beyond description, but they were fragile against Council punishment fleets. Ambassador Park met their delegation in Earth's orbital station. "Ambassador Park," the crystal being chimed in musical tones, "our people have suffered under Council tribute demands for 8 centuries. When we heard of Earth's refusal, our entire civilization felt hope for the first time in generations." "What do you need from us?" Park asked. "Protection," the Veltari delegate admitted. "Our ships are beautiful, but not designed for war. If we refuse tribute payment, the Council will send enforcers." Park activated Earth's defensive alliance proposal. "We offer mutual protection and technology sharing. Species that join our alliance help defend each other against Council aggression." Within days, the Veltari officially withdrew from the Council. Their crystalline ships joined Earth's growing defensive fleet. The Council's response was swift and predictable. Fleet Commander Zell Noth, still recovering from his defeat at Earth, led a punishment expedition against the Veltari homeworld. His orders were to make an example that would discourage other defections. The Council fleet arrived, expecting to find helpless crystal ships and defenseless cities. Instead, they discovered human defensive platforms and Earth-designed weapon systems protecting the Veltari world. Captain Lee Hyun-woo commanded the Joint Defense Force. His mixed fleet of human and Veltari vessels met the Council ships at the edge of the system. "Fleet Commander Zelnoth," Captain Lee transmitted, "you are entering space protected by the Free Species Alliance. Please state your business here." "Free Species Alliance?" Zelnoth clicked angrily. "There is no such organization. These worlds belong to the Council." "Not anymore," Lee replied. "The Veltari have withdrawn from the Council and joined our defensive alliance. They are under Earth's protection." The battle was even more decisive than Earth's first victory. Human tactics, combined with Veltari crystal technology, created devastating weapons systems. The Council fleet retreated after losing half their ships without destroying a single alliance vessel. News of this second defeat spread even faster than the first. The Council's military might, unquestioned for centuries, was being systematically dismantled by the human-led alliance. On the Council station Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vextar called an emergency session. Only 200 species answered the call. Over 100 had either joined the Free Species Alliance or stopped responding to Council communications. "This human infestation must be stopped," Vextar declared to the remaining loyal delegates. "They are destroying the order we have built over millennia." But even his loyal supporters were beginning to waver. The Mortarian delegate released nervous gas puffs before speaking. High Counselor, perhaps negotiation with these humans might be wise. Their military capabilities exceed our projections. Negotiation? Vextar's scales flushed red with anger. We do not negotiate with rebellious subjects. Meanwhile, Director Kim reviewed intelligence reports, showing the Council's growing desperation. They were pulling military units from border regions to concentrate against the Alliance. Some remote Council territories were left completely undefended. They're overreacting, she reported to President Chen. The Council is treating this as an existential threat rather than a political challenge. Isn't it existential for them? President Chen asked. Their entire power structure depends on unquestioned authority, Kim explained. If species realize they can successfully resist, the Council's control collapses completely. The collapse was accelerating. Every week brought new species seeking Alliance membership. The Gossamer Wing Republic, the Mechanical Synthesis, even proud warrior species like the Catharians began questioning why they submitted to Council authority. Ambassador Park found himself coordinating a galactic revolution he had never intended to start. Earth's simple refusal to pay tribute had exposed the Council's fundamental weakness. The breaking point came when the hive mind Thalanis contacted Earth directly. Her insectoid species had been among the Council's most loyal supporters. Ambassador Park, she clicked through the communication system. My hive mind has been analyzing the mathematics of Council tribute demands. We have discovered disturbing patterns. What kind of patterns? Park asked. The tribute collected exceeds defensive needs by 800%. The resources are not being used for galactic protection. They are being accumulated by the Council leadership for personal power. This revelation confirmed what Earth's intelligence had suspected. The Council was not protecting the galaxy from external threats. They were exploiting their member species for their own benefit. What does your hive mind intend to do with this information? Park asked carefully. We will broadcast our mathematical analysis to every species in the galaxy, Thalanis replied. The truth about Council corruption must be revealed. When the hive mind's mathematical proof spread across galactic communication networks, the Council's remaining support crumbled. Species that had faithfully paid tribute for centuries learned they had been systematically robbed. High Counselor Vextar's government collapsed within days. Without the fear that had held their empire together, the Council's authority evaporated completely. From Earth's orbital command center, Director Kim watched the galactic political map transform in real time. Green indicators showed Free Species Alliance members. Red showed remaining Council loyalists. The green was overwhelming the red. Ma'am, her communications officer reported. We're receiving a priority transmission from Nexus Prime. From the Council? Kim asked with surprise. No, ma'am. From Vextar personally. He's requesting political asylum on Earth. The revolution was complete. The galaxy's most powerful dictator was begging the species he had tried to destroy for protection from his own former subjects. 6 months later, the great chamber that had once housed the Galactic Council looked completely different. The intimidating spiral design remained, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Representatives from 234 species gathered not in fear, but in hope. Ambassador Minjun Park stood at the central platform where High Counselor Vextar had once demanded tribute. Now Park addressed the galaxy as the elected coordinator of the Free Species Alliance. Fellow beings of the galaxy. Park began. His words translated into hundreds of languages. We gather today, not as subjects, but as equals. The assembled delegates represented species that had thrown off centuries of oppression. The crystalline Velturi sparkled in their seats. The gaseous Mortarians floated peacefully in their environmental suits. Even the Mechanical Synthesis had joined the new galactic community. President Sarah Chen watched the proceedings from Earth via quantum communication link. In just 18 months, humanity had gone from newcomers to galactic leaders. The responsibility was enormous. The old system was based on fear and submission, Park continued. Our new alliance is based on cooperation and mutual respect. No species will ever again be forced to surrender their resources or independence. In the audience, former High Counselor Vextar sat quietly among the Earth delegation. The once mighty dictator had indeed received asylum on Earth after his government collapsed. He now worked as an advisor, helping the Alliance understand the old system's failures. I spent 2 centuries believing that fear was the only way to maintain order, Vextar had told Park during their first meeting. Your species proved that cooperation is far more powerful than coercion. Captain Lee Hyun-woo commanded the new Galactic Defense Fleet, a voluntary force contributed by Alliance members. Unlike the old Council military that enforced submission, this fleet existed to protect all species from genuine threats. Admiral Torres was right. Lee reported to Park after the session. Most species wanted to resist the Council, but believed it was impossible. Once Earth showed it could be done, the revolution was inevitable. The changes had been remarkable. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now working together. The Tentacled Dominion shared their advanced mathematics with the Hive Mind Collective. The Catharian warriors offered protection to peaceful species like the Floranian Collective. Dr. Elena Vasquez coordinated the massive effort to redistribute the resources the Council had hoarded. Centuries of tribute payments had created enormous stockpiles of materials and technology on Council worlds. We're returning everything to its original owners, she reported to the Alliance Council. Species that were impoverished by tribute demands will receive back their stolen wealth. The most dramatic change was technological. Without the Council's restrictions, species began sharing innovations freely. Human defensive technology combined with alien materials science created ships far superior to anything the old Council had possessed. Director Kim Soo-jin established the new Intelligence Coordination Network. Instead of spying on Alliance members, this organization monitored the galaxy for genuine external threats. The unknown ships the Council claimed were dangerous, she reported to Park. They were actually the first contact vessels from the Andromedal Republic. They've been trying to establish peaceful communication for months. Then, this discovery led to humanity's greatest achievement yet. Captain Dong-hyun Park commanded the first diplomatic mission to the Andromedal Galaxy. What they found amazed everyone. The Andromedal Republic consists of over 3,000 species living in complete peace, Captain Park transmitted back to Earth. They've been watching our galaxy for centuries, waiting for us to evolve beyond the Council's authoritarian system. The Andromedalans had technology that made even human innovations look primitive, but they refused to share it with species that used fear and oppression to maintain power. We only share our knowledge with civilizations that have learned to live in harmony, explained Andromedal Ambassador Zenthari during the first intergalactic diplomatic meeting. Humanity showed the galaxy how to break free from tyranny, Zenthari continued. Now we can begin true cooperation between galaxies. Back on Earth, children studied the story of the Great Refusal in their history classes. The simple word, no, that had changed the galaxy became a symbol of courage throughout the universe. Why was saying no so powerful? Asked young student Kim Min-seo during a visit to the Earth Space Museum. Ambassador Park, now retired from active diplomacy, smiled at the question. Because no one had ever said it before. Sometimes the most powerful words are the simplest ones. The museum displayed artifacts from the old Council era, alongside gifts from liberated species. A Veltari crystal sculpture sat next to a Catharian battle axe, symbolically bent into a farming tool. President Chen, now in her second term, reviewed the Alliance's achievements during the annual State of the Galaxy address. Galactic trade has increased by 400%, she reported to Earth's Parliament. Scientific discoveries have accelerated beyond all previous records. Most importantly, no species lives in fear of arbitrary demands or punishments. The Free Species Alliance had grown beyond anyone's imagination. Species from distant galaxies had requested membership. The Andromedal Republic had become humanity's closest allies, sharing technology and knowledge freely. But perhaps the most meaningful change was philosophical. The old council had taught that might makes right, that the strong should dominate the weak. The alliance proved that cooperation created strength far greater than any individual species could achieve alone. Former Fleet Commander Zelnoth had become one of the alliance's most effective advocates. His own species, the Vorthak, had joined enthusiastically after learning the truth about council corruption. "I spent my career enforcing submission through fear," he told new alliance members. "I thought strength came from making others afraid of you. Humans taught us that true strength comes from helping others become stronger." The old council territories were now alliance worlds, with their populations liberated from centuries of oppression. The tribute system had been replaced with voluntary resource sharing. Species contributed what they could and received help when they needed it. Ambassador Park stood once more in the Great Chamber, now called the Alliance Assembly Hall. Representatives from over 400 species, including newcomers from 3 different galaxies, had gathered for the 5th annual Cooperation Summit. 5 years ago, Earth said one simple word that changed everything. Park addressed the assembly. "Today, we speak countless words of friendship, cooperation, and mutual respect." The translation systems carried his words to hundreds of species in their native languages. But everyone understood the central message. The galaxy had been transformed by courage, wisdom, and the simple refusal to accept injustice. On Earth, the Global Museum of Galactic Freedom displayed a simple plaque with one word engraved in every known language: "No." Below it, a longer inscription explained, "Sometimes the most important thing you can say is the simplest. Sometimes one word can change the universe." Children from dozens of species visited Earth regularly to see where the galactic revolution had begun. They learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to do what was right despite being afraid. The galaxy had learned that freedom was not given by the powerful to the weak. It was taken by the brave and shared with all who desired it. And it all began with one species that was not afraid to say no.